War, in its brutal reality, often becomes a breeding ground for unimaginable cruelty. Acts of violence, when exceeding the boundaries of military necessity and targeting civilians or prisoners of war, become war crimes. These acts, etched in history as atrocities, serve as stark reminders of the human capacity for evil, even amidst the chaos of conflict. From the Geneva Conventions to international tribunals, the world has sought to define, prosecute, and ultimately prevent such horrors. The Second World War, a conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation, witnessed a horrifying array of war crimes. These acts, perpetrated by all sides to varying degrees, left lasting scars on the victims, their communities, and the very conscience of humanity. Remembering these events, understanding their context, and acknowledging their profound impact is crucial in confronting the dark side of human nature. Only through remembrance can we hope to prevent such horrors from recurring. The systematic extermination of Jews and other minorities by Nazi Germany stands as a chilling example of state-sponsored genocide. The Holocaust, with its industrialized killing machine and calculated brutality, remains a stark reminder of the depths of human depravity. But beyond the Holocaust, numerous other atrocities, often overlooked or forgotten, demand acknowledgement and remembrance. These acts, ranging from massacres to systematic torture and enslavement, highlight the widespread nature of war crimes during this period. The German invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939, marked the beginning of the Second World War and unleashed a wave of terror upon the Polish people. Nazi ideology, fueled by racial hatred and a desire for Lebensraum, cast Poles and other Slavic peoples as inferior, justifying their subjugation and elimination. From the outset, the German military, aided by SS Einsatzgruppen death squads, targeted Polish civilians, intellectuals, and leaders in a campaign of terror and extermination. The bombing of hospitals and civilian shelters, clearly marked as such, became a deliberate tactic of the Luftwaffe, the German Air Force. Cities like Warsaw and Wielun were reduced to rubble, with countless innocent lives lost in the onslaught. The indiscriminate bombing of civilian targets served no military purpose, aiming solely to terrorize the population and break their will to resist. These acts, blatant violations of international law, exposed the brutal reality of the Nazi war machine. Polish prisoners of war, often captured in large numbers, faced horrific treatment at the hands of their captors. Mass executions, starvation, and disease were rampant in German POW camps. The systematic dehumanization of Polish soldiers, stripped of their uniforms and denied basic rights, reflected the Nazi belief in their racial inferiority. The brutality inflicted upon Polish POWs, often exceeding the already harsh conditions of wartime captivity, underscored the depths of Nazi cruelty. On the night of December 26, 1939, a seemingly insignificant incident near the village of Wawa, just outside Warsaw, would spiral into a horrific act of reprisal. Following the alleged killing of 2 German soldiers in a local tavern brawl, the occupying forces enacted a brutal and disproportionate response. Rounding up men and boys from the village, the Germans subjected them to a night of terror and violence. Driven to a nearby brickyard, the Polish civilians endured hours of beatings, torture, and humiliation at the hands of their captors. As the night wore on, the Germans, fueled by alcohol and a thirst for revenge, began systematically executing their prisoners. Lined up against a wall and shot, the victims, most of whom had no connection to the earlier incident, fell one by one. When dawn broke, the true horror of the Wawa massacre became apparent. 107 Polish men and boys, their bodies riddled with bullets, lay dead in the brickyard. The massacre, a chilling example of Nazi brutality and disregard for human life, sent shockwaves through occupied Poland. It served as a stark reminder that no one, regardless of age or innocence, was safe from the arbitrary violence of the Nazi regime. While the Eastern Front often witnessed the most extreme forms of Nazi barbarity, the Western Front was not immune to such atrocities. The German invasion of France and the Low Countries in 1940 brought its own share of horror as the Wehrmacht, particularly the SS, engaged in acts of reprisal and terror against both soldiers and civilians. The massacre of British prisoners of war at Le Paradis in May 1940 stands as a chilling example of the brutality unleashed. Following their surrender after fierce fighting near the village of Le Paradis, 99 British soldiers, mostly from the Royal Norfolk Regiment, were herded into a farmyard by SS troops. Without warning or justification, the Germans opened fire on the unarmed prisoners, mowing them down with machine guns and rifles. The massacre, carried out with cold-blooded efficiency, left only 2 survivors, both feigning death. In the aftermath of the D-Day landings in June 1944, as Allied forces fought to liberate France, another massacre unfolded, this time targeting Canadian prisoners of war. Near the village of Authie, members of the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend, notorious for their fanaticism, rounded up and executed over 100 Canadian soldiers. The killings, often carried out at close range, exemplified the brutal nature of the fighting in Normandy and the depths of Nazi hatred. Section 5. The Malmedy Massacre, a cold-blooded act of war. The Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last-ditch offensive in the West, witnessed one of the most infamous war crimes committed by German forces, the Malmedy Massacre. On December 17, 1944, near the Belgian town of Malmedy, a group of American soldiers, disarmed and captured by elements of the 1st SS Panzer Division Leibstandarte SS Adolf Hitler, were systematically murdered. The massacre, a chilling example of the brutality unleashed during the German counter-offensive, shocked Allied forces and solidified the image of the SS as ruthless killers. The American prisoners, numbering over 80, were assembled in a field near Malmedy, seemingly awaiting transport to a rear echelon POW camp. Without warning, German machine gunners opened fire on the unarmed men, cutting many down in the initial burst. Those who survived the initial volley were hunted down and shot at close range or crushed by tanks. The Malmedy Massacre, a clear violation of the Geneva Conventions and the laws of war, sparked outrage and revulsion. It served as a stark reminder of the brutal nature of the Nazi regime and fueled Allied determination to defeat Germany. The massacre also highlighted the dangers faced by prisoners of war, particularly in the chaotic and desperate final months of the war. Section 6. From Gardelegen to Marzabotto, the horrors multiply. As the Allied armies advanced into Germany in the spring of 1945, they encountered the horrific consequences of Nazi brutality on a scale previously unimaginable. The liberation of concentration camps like Buchenwald and Dachau exposed the systematic extermination of Jews and other minorities, shocking the world with the depths of Nazi depravity. Yet beyond the camps, numerous other atrocities, often overlooked or forgotten, came to light, revealing the widespread nature of Nazi war crimes. The Gardelegen massacre, perpetrated on April 13, 1945, stands as a chilling example of the brutality unleashed in the final days of the war. Over 1,000 prisoners, mostly political prisoners and forced laborers, were herded into a barn near the town of Gardelegen in central Germany. The barn was doused with gasoline and set ablaze, burning the prisoners alive in a horrifying act of mass murder. In Italy, the retreating German forces, seeking to delay the Allied advance and terrorize the population, engaged in numerous reprisals against civilians. The Marzabotto massacre, committed by the 16th SS Panzergrenadier Division Reichsführer SS in September 1944, stands as one of the worst atrocities committed on Italian soil. Over 700 civilians, including women and children, were systematically murdered in the village of Marzabotto and surrounding areas. Section 7. Italian Atrocities, Sant'Anna di Stazzema and beyond. The idyllic mountain village of Sant'Anna di Stazzema, nestled in the Tuscan countryside, became the scene of unspeakable horror in August 1944. Units of the 16th SS Panzergrenadier Division, Reichsführer SS, seeking to eliminate suspected partisan activity, descended upon the village, unleashing a wave of terror upon the civilian population. The Sant'Anna di Stazzema massacre, a brutal act of reprisal, stands as one of the darkest chapters in Italian history. Over 500 men, women and children were rounded up and systematically murdered by the SS troops. Herded into barns and squares, the villagers were mowed down by machine gun fire or blown apart by grenades. The massacre, carried out with chilling efficiency, left few survivors to tell the tale. The Santa Anna di Stasma massacre, a stark reminder of the brutality unleashed upon the Italian people, stands as a symbol of the human cost of war. It serves as a reminder that even in the supposed heartland of civilization, the veneer of humanity can be easily stripped away, revealing the dark potential for violence that lies within us all. Section 8. Oradour-sur-Glane, a village erased. The French village of Oradour-sur-Glane, nestled amidst the rolling hills of the Haute-Vienne region, stands as a chilling monument to the horrors of war. On June 10, 1944, units of the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, notorious for their brutality, descended upon the village, unleashing a wave of terror upon its unsuspecting inhabitants. The Oradour-sur-Glane massacre, a brutal act of reprisal, remains one of the most infamous war crimes committed on French soil. The SS troops, acting on erroneous intelligence suggesting the presence of resistance fighters, rounded up the villagers, separating men from women and children. The men were herded into barns and sheds, where they were systematically murdered with machine guns and grenades. The women and children, locked in the village church, were burned alive when the building was set ablaze. The Oradour-sur-Glane massacre, a stark reminder of the indiscriminate brutality of war, stands as a symbol of the human cost of conflict. The village, its ruins preserved as a memorial and museum, serves as a chilling reminder of the fragile nature of peace and the importance of remembrance. Section 9. The Balkans in flames, Kalavrita d'Istimo and Kragujevac. The Balkan Peninsula, a region long riven by ethnic and religious tensions, became a battleground for Axis and Allied forces during the Second World War. The conflict, often characterized by brutality and reprisals, left a legacy of suffering and division that continues to shape the region today. Amidst the chaos and violence, several massacres stand out as particularly horrific examples of the war's toll on civilians. In December 1943, units of the German 117th Jaeger Division, seeking to eliminate suspected partisan activity, descended upon the Greek town of Kalavrita. Rounding up all males over the age of 16, the Germans marched them to a nearby ravine and executed them in cold blood. The Kalavrita massacre, a brutal act of reprisal, claimed the lives of over 500 men and boys. In June 1944, units of the Waffen-SS, seeking to crush resistance in occupied Greece, targeted the village of Distomo. Over 200 men, women and children were brutally murdered in a 2-hour rampage. The Distomo massacre, marked by its brutality and indiscriminate killing, stands as one of the worst atrocities committed by Axis forces in Greece. In October 1941, following the capture of the Serbian city of Kragujevac, German occupation forces carried out one of the most notorious massacres of the war. In retaliation for partisan attacks, the Germans rounded up thousands of Serbian men and boys, executing them over the course of several days. The Kragujevac massacre, a chilling example of Nazi brutality, claimed the lives of an estimated 2,700 to 2,800 victims. Section 10. The Weight of Memory. Remembering the victims. The Second World War, with its unprecedented scale of violence and destruction, left an indelible mark on human history. The war's legacy extends far beyond the battlefields, shaping the political, social, and moral landscape of the world we live in today. Amidst the vast human cost of the conflict, the victims of war crimes occupy a unique and tragic place. Their suffering, often overlooked or forgotten in the grand narratives of war, stands as a stark reminder of the human capacity for evil and the enduring consequences of hatred and intolerance. Remembering the victims of war crimes is not merely an act of historical preservation, but a moral imperative. By acknowledging their suffering, honoring their memory, and striving to understand the circumstances that led to their deaths, we honor their humanity and reaffirm our commitment to a more just and compassionate world. Remembrance serves as a powerful antidote to the forces of hatred, indifference, and historical amnesia that threaten to erode our common humanity. The memorials, museums, and research centers dedicated to the victims of war crimes serve as vital repositories of memory and education. They provide spaces for reflection, remembrance, and dialogue, ensuring that the stories of the victims are not forgotten, and that the lessons learned from their suffering continue to resonate with future generations. By confronting the dark chapters of our past, we equip ourselves with the knowledge and empathy necessary to prevent such atrocities from happening again. Section 11. Seeking justice, accountability, and the pursuit of peace. The pursuit of justice for war crimes, while complex and often fraught with challenges, remains a cornerstone of international law and a testament to the enduring belief in accountability for even the most heinous acts. The Nuremberg Trials, held in the aftermath of the Second World War, established a precedent for holding individuals accountable for their roles in crimes against humanity, genocide, and war crimes. These trials, though imperfect, marked a turning point in international law, establishing the principle that individuals, regardless of rank or position, could be held responsible for their actions during wartime. The establishment of the International Criminal Court in 2002 further solidified the international community's commitment to prosecuting war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. The ICC, though facing challenges in terms of its jurisdiction and enforcement mechanisms, represents a significant step towards ending impunity for perpetrators of mass atrocities. The pursuit of justice for war crimes is not solely about punishment, but also about truth, reconciliation, and the prevention of future atrocities. By holding perpetrators accountable, acknowledging the suffering of victims, and promoting a culture of respect for human rights and the rule of law, we lay the groundwork for a more just and peaceful world. The pursuit of justice for war crimes is an ongoing process requiring the sustained commitment of individuals, nations, and international organizations. Only through collective action and a shared belief in the inherent dignity of all human beings can we hope to prevent the horrors of the past from being repeated in the future.